Hello and welcome everybody to a special counseling video from Mr. Ross Creations. I am Mr. Ross. So, my main career is as a counselor. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania and a certified brain spotting therapist. So, I spend a lot of time doing counseling sessions. When I first started learning about counseling, I was actually in a school psychology program. I was learning how to be a school psychologist, giving assessments to kids to test if they had intellectual disabilities or autism. And I realized that that wasn't really the work I was passionate about. It was something that I was good at and something that I saw that was valuable, but not something that I wanted to pursue. In part, taking this counseling class sparked my interest in counseling. And I knew, this is something that I want to do. And as part of that class, we watched the movie Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon and, of course, Robin Williams, who's the therapist in that movie. We did an assignment back then, and I saw the movie again for the first time since that assignment years ago. That would have been back in 2015, I believe. And so I've been out of school for a while. I've been counseling for a little over 8 years. I haven't looked at my answers for this in a long time. So this assignment was on Good Will Hunting. We were supposed to watch the movie and then answer a series of questions about what happened. This assignment was apparently adapted from a journal article from Cook and Dollarhide using a popular film in counselor education, Good Will Hunting, as a teaching tool. So my professor adapted it based on that. So shout out to Dr. Janie at Marywood University. Amazing counselor and professor. One of my favorite professors there. And without him, I'm not sure if I would be a counselor today. So let's dive in. I actually have not read my answers before. So what you're hearing from me reading my answers as a student, not even a counseling student at that point, remember, a school psychology student. This is the first time I've read them in years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the questions, read the answer that I put back then, and then answer that question as I would today as a more experienced counselor. So let's see. It jumps around a little bit. So question 6 is what I answered first. 6. Session 2 is conducted outside the counseling office and facility. Is this ethical and professional behavior? What are the advantages and disadvantages of this approach? Okay. And so then here is my answer. For session 2, Robin Williams' character takes Matt Damon's character to a lake. It is debatable whether or not this is ethical or professional behavior. As far as ethics are concerned, I think it is important for the counselor to ensure that there is a comfortable atmosphere for the session. However, clients may be vulnerable, and taking them for a session in public seems to be inappropriate. Likewise, this behavior is unprofessional because sessions typically take place in the confidential and traditionally common walls of an office of some kind. Meanwhile, being flexible and going to a comfortable place for the client can be professional if it serves to help the client, although there are many fine lines in doing this, making it debatable whether it ever should be done by a counselor for a session. Overall, there are advantages and disadvantages to this approach. Advantages would include an atmosphere that may be more open and free than an office. A place like a lake may be calming and familiar, while an office for a therapy session may be stereotypical and stigmatizing for the client. Meanwhile, disadvantages include a lack of confidentiality, as anyone can listen to the session or take notice that a therapy session is taking place. Also, clients may hide strong emotions or emotions where others may hear or see them. In addition, clients may feel uncomfortable being with the counselor outside of the usual setting for a counselor and a client. Okay, so reasonable answer by me 10 years ago. And, I'm even looking at my writing. I have fortunately improved my writing. There was a lot of repetition there. A lot of extra wording that didn't need to be there. I'm glad that I've cut down my writing more. Okay. So I had a good point from back then. I mean, something I still believe today is that a client doing a session in public is going to give you different responses than a client giving a response in private. Most of my practice at this point is telehealth. So clients are in various settings for their sessions. They may be out in a common room in their home, like a kitchen or living room, where other people are passing by. They might be in the privacy of their own bedroom or office. Others might be in a car, in their vehicle, simply to get out of the house for the extra privacy. Is see, it's not unethical to meet with somebody outside of an office. In fact, some counselors will go on walks with their clients, and this could be not only good exercise, but also good to get outside of the office. Forms are signed for that. So the client agrees to that, and that works, right? And in reality, other people don't know that counseling session is taking place. Even if they were to say, see me and know, hey, there's Ross and he's a counselor, I don't know if people would put the pieces together. And because I didn't explicitly say, hey, we're having a counseling session, here's my client, this is their name, date of birth, and insurance information, I'm not giving away any confidentiality. So you may want to ensure more confidentiality by not doing a session out in public. There is a little bit of gray area, but is it ethical? Yeah, it can still be ethical as long as the client agreed to it and understands the risks and benefits of it. Is it professional? Absolutely, it could be professional. I don't think being professional is being stuffy in an office necessarily. You don't have to dress a certain way, act a certain way, which is something that I definitely have learned about Robin Williams' character from this movie, is that you can be a little more self-disclosing, a little bit less by the book. How does that make you feel in order to be professional in this field? So long and short answer here, it's fine. Get your client's agreement, though, if you're going to do that. All right, I did number 8. The counselor curses often. Is this appropriate? Would you do this? Why or why not? I'm curious to see what I put. I almost never cursed back in grad school when this happened. I rarely curse now. The counselor does curse often throughout the sessions. Whether or not this is appropriate depends on what the word appropriate means. Okay. If appropriate means conducive to helping the client, then cursing might be positive for the therapy session. Both the counselor and the client curse often. For the counselor to be himself and say whatever he wants, he becomes a more genuine individual rather than a passive listener who the client can relate to. Well said, by the way. I like that. If the word appropriate means ethically appropriate, then no, I do not believe that cursing is ethical or professional. Other words can be used to substitute for curse words. I mean, that does make sense. Personally, I would not curse during sessions because I actually refrain from cursing in my daily life. I decided I did not want to curse years ago when my peers started doing so, and I feel as if cursing is not something people should do. However, I do see the purpose of cursing in sessions to express strong feelings or genuineness, as the counselor does. I had a very good point there. Ethically, there's nothing in the ethics about cursing. If it makes your clients very uncomfortable, I would not curse in session. I've had enough experiences in counseling to know that whether I was working in an outpatient drug and alcohol setting where clients are going in and out of the jails, they're living in poverty, they're struggling with addiction, cursing is very common. In fact, sometimes you're looking for the words that aren't curse words and what they're saying, F and this and F and that. So coming from that setting and then even going to a nice, cozy private practice setting, I mean, people curse. Adults get angry. It's simply part of their language. And I found that sometimes I end up cursing in session, and it's more because of the passion that I have behind what I'm saying. And this resonates a lot with clients because I so rarely curse. If they hear, oh, Mr. Ross is cursing, it's a big deal. There's a point I'm trying to get across to them. Do I curse at the client? No, not like that. But to say some curse words and simply be a relatable person in session, as long as it's not making your client uncomfortable, you're fine. Yeah. I don't think this takes away from the professionalism of what you're doing. If you're cursing more than the client, you should probably take a step back on that. But overall, I don't think there's something inherently wrong with that. I did take the moral high ground, 10 years ago. Um, are there other words you could use instead of curse words? Absolutely. It's still okay, though. Okay. Let's move over to question 9. Is the counselor's use of disclosure appropriate? A big part of Good Will Hunting is that Robin Williams' character talks a lot about himself and his story in order to help Matt Damon's character open up. So, how does this fit with your own values as a counselor? Okay. I wasn't a counselor yet, but I'm sure I had some values already. The counselor's use of disclosure is frequent, much more frequent than what we learned in class. Self-disclosure is usually quick and used as a tool to help the client speak when he or she is close to saying something. In the movie, the counselor often says more about itself than the client does. While I feel that the amount of disclosure was too much, I think in this situation it was appropriate. The counselor knew that he needed to build rapport before he could get the story, so modeling how to be vulnerable and saying his feelings were appropriate. However, this may not be appropriate in most situations, especially when the client is willing to tell his or her story. With a client who was not willing to give his story, this seemed appropriate, albeit unique and perhaps unprofessional. My personal belief as a counselor on self-disclosure is that it is important to be human with the client. This might mean that the counselor may say how he or she feels or thinks. If the client sees the counselor as a set of ears and not as a person, the client may not truly express his or her feelings because he or she may not anticipate being understood by a real person with thoughts and feelings. While the counselor should not switch roles with the client, the counselor can be human and build rapport through self-disclosure with the client. Okay. Good answers from me. I think I was pretty insightful back then. It's more about the timing of it and the purpose and intent of it. I think we see throughout the movie that Robin Williams' character is struggling with the countertransference. Seeing an opportunity to share with this individual that is more personal and more biased. He uses it for good, but we do have to be careful because sometimes we feel so inclined to share more of ourselves with a client that we may go over the line in sharing. And maybe we make the boundaries a little murky between our role as a therapist in their lives versus our role as like a family member or as a friend in a way. I go back and forth on this. I do share a little bit with clients and it's like bits and pieces here and there. Some of it's a little personal, some of it's more professional. Either way, though, I do believe that in the movie it was done in a very tactful way for the most part. And I would agree that you should be able to use some self-disclosure in your sessions. It's carefully picked, it's very timely, it's tactful, and it's for the intent of helping out the client in some way. Even if you only have a semblance of an idea in the moment of like, this is why I want to do this to help them. So how many questions did I do? I believe there were a few more. So actually, I think this video is already long enough. We'll cut it at that. And we'll do a second video on it. How about that? I think this is pretty fun looking at my previous responses and finding that I actually agreed with that person, but also have found more comfort in various things in this field already. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe. I will have more content on this page related to poetry, related to my life coaching practice, and also related to some counseling from time to time. Thank you and have a great day.